Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hypnotic Rambles number 4, I think.
Yes, it's episode 4. Hello, hello, welcome.
Today, we're talking about something that everybody probably has a different opinion on, but we're going to give it our slant and see where it goes.
Yes, yes, yes. And we are talking about thoughts and emotions, how they are connected. What comes first?
Ooh,
Do
chicken
we
or
feel
egg?
something or do we, um, think something first? What do you think?
I think the thought comes first and then the feeling.
Mm.
I think logically that's the way it would be,
Yeah,
but and that would make logical sense that we have the thought and we've just activated a pathway that causes a feeling over time. I think. But I have come across theories recently where books like The Body Keep the Score, um, that we store trauma in our body. Um, but even other theories that have kind of suggested, that in the state when we're nonverbal, that we, create emotions and feelings. So it's a really interesting one because we know that psychology, our physiology can change our psychology. So maybe, so I don't know, but from a hypnotherapy perspective, it's very interesting because it gives us two different options, right?
yeah, absolutely. So, Bob Proctor teaches this stick person. I don't know if you've ever come across. And he says that a thought comes first, it comes into your mind, and then that creates a feeling.
Hmm.
And then that moves the body into an action, right? And then that's how you get your results, which is great. But then I also have read in many other books and heard other people saying that the emotion comes first, and that gives a thought, and then you entertain that, and then you feel
Hmm.
even more, right? Um, so all the explanations that I have come across are valid. It has a point,
Yeah.
but I think it's so it's exactly the same as what comes first, chicken or eggs.
Yeah, because it's interesting because if it was a case that the emotion came first, and I know there's probably no scientific proof for that, but because scientifically we would say the amygdala fires off, it releases something down throws into our body
Yeah.
and sets off in a set place. And then we just built a neural pathway and a connection that flows down, and we feel it before we actually become aware of it. But if it was down there first, interesting. The brain can't leave a void, so it's got to try and find a solution. So it comes up with a solution.
So how I can, but that's again a personal opinion of how I
Yeah.
can imagine it is that if the emotion comes first, then still there is a thought, yeah, because our brain thinks in pictures. So then that would be an unconscious,
Hmm.
right? So we are not aware of it. So if the feeling comes first, then still there is a thought, at least one thought that is connected to it. So it will come up, and then that's how we. But it has to be there, otherwise. But that's how I can perceive it. I don't know.
Yeah.
How can you feel something without thinking about it?
Well, I mean, if you take, say, that anyone feels a fright of some kind, something that will kick off your amygdala, it generates a feeling, and that feeling of fright or whatever it is goes to look for the very first time that it felt that feeling, that
Mm.
it heard that and or that noise, and what is it, and it responds in that same way. Um, so I don't know, but I do know that it gives us two sets of options in which to deal with anybody who's got issues in relation to um, therapy that they need because they're feeling feelings that they don't want to feel for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Um, because we can deal with the thought, which is what, we would normally do. But then obviously from, an NLP or KS type version of the world, we can deal with the physical feeling.
Yeah, and chaos, you mean John means kinetic shift.
Yeah, sorry. It's just a
Not everybody
conversation. I
knows.
know you know what it means. I forget we're actually putting this out sometimes.
Yeah, because in our therapy sessions, what we ask people is to think about that very thing, allow the feelings to come up, and then we can deal with it.
Yeah,
Right. So it's as simple as that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's very interesting. I would love to know the audience's opinion.
I would love that too, actually, because everybody, I imagine, will have a different opinion, and I'm sure we get some scientific facts as well. But there's not that much science on emotion, I'm afraid. So, and it's definitely not logical. That's the only thing I know for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I mean, feelings have, particularly when we feel them physically in our body, whether it's anxiety or whatever that feeling is, or even love, it's
Mm.
like it has a color, it has a sensation, it has a shape and a size and an intensity actually, and depends on some of the stuff that you know the likes of kinetic shift. It uses those two things of color, location, and intensity, and moves it from there. Um, there's others like David Snyder who use shapes and sizes around it, but if you change any part of it, you change it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I personally, when there's a feeling and I focus on it, I don't really see colors. I can add colors to it, but
Mm.
automatically there is no color. But I'm very kinesthetic, so it's the feeling in my body. I can absolutely locate it, and I can tell you everything about the feeling. But yeah, absolutely, NLP does. We call them submodalities, and if you change
Yeah.
any of it, you already change the intensity of the feeling. So, what happens when we change the thought? So we know what we're thinking about, and it generates feelings. And if you change the thought deliberately, then we do change the feeling as well.
Correct.
So, what would you say to the audience when we are really feeling something intensely? Yeah, it's very intense, and then
One of my
yeah,
favorite things, and I absolutely just love this, and I think it comes from Tony Robbins. Sorry, at least that's where I heard it first. And just, I don't know who came up with it, but it's your physiology changes your psychology.
yeah,
If you stand up straight, put your head up, shoulders back, and smile and keep smiling, it's really hard to think a sad thought. And even if you can, it's nowhere near as intense. Whereas if you drop your shoulders, head down, frown, and keep frowning and try and keep a happy thought, it's really hard to do that too.
hmm,
And your sad thoughts will be more intense. So I mean, the first thing it's a pattern interrupt basically, but what it does is it allows somebody to change their state pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's what I would suggest as well. That if an emotion is too intense, and changing the thought is a little bit more difficult because that very thought is keep jumping back into the mind.
Yes.
That I always say, stand up, shake it off, or move your body.
Yeah, and
Then
there's
give
really
it a
good
go
music.
again, because that's when you will find that it weakens a bit. So then you can deliberately change the thought as well, as in think about something else.
And it really is important to change the thought, particularly if there's an issue that needs to be resolved, because as I think Einstein said it, here we're getting very scientific here now. Einstein said it, you can't solve the problem from the same space that it was created in. So you need to
Yeah,
change the state. So changing
exactly.
state is the answer.
Yeah. And if there's another way that is making this a little bit easier, is that when you really tune into what you're thinking about, you can change that picture. So going into the mind, and then, okay, what is the thought? I'm thinking about that thing, or an event. Maybe it's a person or
Hmm.
people. And then just first have a look. Is it a picture or is it a movie? Am I actually seeing um, what's happening or what happened? And then just change that. So if it's a movie, just freeze it. Have a look the location in the mind. Where is it in the mind? Am I seeing it in front? Is it like really in front of me? like just before my eyes, and it's big. So just change the size, maybe change, you can even reposition it. And I have played with this so many times now, and it's really, really fascinating, because sometimes we just say that it's just, I can't get it out of my mind, right? And we even point to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just here, and it's all unconscious. We're not aware of what we are doing, right? But when you become aware of it, okay, actually it's here. What happens, like maybe I'm pointing to my left side, what happens to it if I just move it to the right side? So say, oh, I feel completely different. And then just by moving the location of it can make a massive change. But again, finding out what works best for every single person is the key here, because some people will not have so much change or not experience change just by moving the location or just by shrinking it. They may notice the change when they maybe make it dull. So they play with the colors, making it black and white from bright.
You can also change the size.
Yeah, the size, yeah, as I shrinking it, or
Right. So,
or frame it. You can play with it. So make whatever you have in your mind different, and then just play with what works best for you,
yeah,
and then you
because
can.
now if you have the manual that you came with when you were born, you could go to the index and it would tell you what page it's on. But unfortunately, we don't have one of those, so we gotta just play with it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no consistency apply for anybody, no consistent approach. For anybody, it's kind of everybody's different. And I mean, something and another process that someone showed me recently was, you know, to dissipate the emotion, to literally go into it, to feel that feeling, to go straight into that feeling.
Mm.
Um, and as you go into that feeling, it becomes not as intense. It's a bit like pain. You're told not to focus on the pain, but when you go into the pain, it starts to dissolve a little bit. And the
Yes.
emotional pain is the same. So at least in this approach, it started to dissolve in that process. And it was a fairly intense issue as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we are afraid. We are conditioned to be afraid of the feelings.
yeah.
So we don't want to feel them. So we push them down, and they become. I think I have mentioned in the first episode, I think when we were talking about, maybe it's not, I can't remember now, but it's imagine emotions like little children.
Yes,
So if they come and they want your attention, they will be louder if you ignore them. They will become stronger, and they may even throw a tantrum, or maybe they just start to pull your clothes and then or hit you. I want your attention. And that's exactly how emotions are, feelings are. So if you acknowledge them, they lose that massive tantrum, if you like,
yeah.
state, because oh, okay, you're listening to me. So you're acknowledging them, and you say, okay, this is okay, I'm listening. What do you want? Okay, I feel this way, and it's okay to feel however you feel, and then just let it move past. Go move through your body, really.
And that's it,
And
because emotion is energy that's been trapped, that just
yeah,
hasn't been released. So if we go into it, we release it.
yeah, yeah.
But we have to
But
stay through it.
But if there is a time when it lingers around, it just stays
Of
there,
course.
then that's the time when it's really you can push it or help it along the way by changing um, the subtleties of the feeling. So moving from the thought to the feeling. Now we can change if it's like a sharp pain. What if I change it to a different kind of, so it loses its sharpness? Or if it's heavy, what if I just imagine that it's lighter? Is it hot, the feeling? Or what if I change it to cold? So you can change different parts of that feeling, and that will change the intensity of the feeling and help it along the way.
Yeah, and it does just need to be washed through and need to be released.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because for me, I call it mouse under the floorboard. They're tiny little things in a
Yeah.
tiny space. They just seem so big. And when you see them, they're tiny because you're not the same person you were. It's just we've given them an emotional significance. So all we're literally doing is trying to change the significance of that,
Yeah.
the intensity of that emotion, so that it becomes released.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have working with the body,
Hmm.
and then we've working with the mind,
Yeah.
because it's a double connection. Obviously, there's an information flow between both.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you change the thoughts, or changing what you see in your mind, you know, the picture, the movie, whatever that is, then you change the feeling that is associated with it, and then vice versa.
One thing that's, yeah, I mean, if you're changing the thoughts and you can find the initial feeling, the initial cause, then you can reframe that in that moment.
Mm.
But you probably need to go back to the initial cause, or at least what you perceive to be the initial cause.
Yeah.
And the other one that I actually like is the bilateral stimulation.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
It's so quick.
yeah, absolutely. It's the, and it's kind of, the anxiety's gone, the anxiety's gone, and suddenly you're looking for it. It's like, where is it?
So do you want to explain to the audience, because they don't know?
Okay, so
Bilateral
bilateral
stimulation.
stimulation, absolutely. I keep forgetting we're just having a conversation here. There's other people watching.
Remember,
Well,
it's
there
educational.
are. Tell me what I think about that. Bilateral stimulation is we've the two hemispheres to our brain, which is left and right, logic and emotion. And in the emotional side of the brain, in the unconscious part of the brain, is where all our memories, beliefs, and all those habits and all those are. And while we may consciously have one thought and logically have one thought, when our emotional brain says something different, that's where the conflict kicks in, and that's where we become that unbalanced. When we look at just to take a pen, for instance, but it could be anything at all, and it's literally without moving your head, it's watching the pen with your eyes and making a statement like the anxiety is gone, the anxiety is gone, the anxiety is gone, the anxiety is gone. I do it about 20 times. I do a couple of rounds of it. And what you find at some point in time is that, that state becomes almost that state. It becomes balanced, and
Yeah.
what it does then is it releases the emotional charge. You can actually then reprogram it back the other way. I am confident. I am confident. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Melissa Tears teaches it differently. Have an object in your mind, maybe a bottle of water, and then just imagine there's a line in the middle of your
Yeah.
body,
You're crossing the midpoint all
top
the
to
time.
bottom, and then you just, for a minute, you're just like passing that object
Absolutely.
from one hand to another. But in the meantime, of course, you're really feeling the anxiety, whatever the feeling is.
Right.
And
And the beauty of that is you can do it anywhere. You could be sitting in a meeting, passing the phone, keys, anything at
people
all.
do that anyway, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like they always play, and some people actually play with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Same thing.
And it is one of those ways that, is a very quick and easy way um to change a feeling
Mm,
and to change a thought.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we covered how to change if you have anything in your mind, that it's really.
And I'm sure there's loads more that we haven't covered, but
Oh, yeah. But just to recap
some
few
fairly.
things. So you can change what you have in your mind, as in thoughts, pictures, images. You can change anything on it, and it will change how you feel about that particular thing.
Yeah.
You can change the feeling in your body.
Yeah. You can change the energy of your body.
Yeah. And you can reposition yourself. So that's an important part as well. So as Joan mentioned before, just give it a go. How do you feel when you look down, when you slouch? And then, do you feel the happiness, or just notice the difference? Do you do that for a few seconds, and then after that you just like really head high, look up, and then just open your whole body? What's the difference in energy and feeling?
There's a really interesting TED talk. I think it's a Harvard professor, Amy Cuddy, and it's all about power poses.
Yeah.
That kind of, I suppose, was probably one of the basis of it, but it explodes. It's the confidence pose. But when you reverse that process, then that's when you get the I'm sad feeling, And it's Yeah, so I mean, it's an easy way to solve something in the short term too, because you've got short-term problems and long-term problems. I mean, you
Mm.
physically have a feeling, and what you really want to do is change a state that you want to get out of. Um, and there's so many different things. I mean, in kinetic shifts, I expanded it now, or in other stuff, what you're actually doing is removing it. You're literally removing it and then replacing it with something that you actually want.
Yeah, yeah. It's important that anytime you do any kind of work like this on yourself, to think something good afterwards. So you replace
Absolutely.
it. You fill your body up with good feelings, and it's
Absolutely.
as simple as okay.
Yeah.
Thinking about something, it's really good to think about. I think everybody had unconditional, uncontrollable laugh. Like inappropriate laugh, we call it. When was the last time you really laughed? And then just think about that joke or think about that thing that will put that giggle. It brings up that giggle, put that smile
Absolutely.
on your face, and then you just change your state really with that as well.
Well, the other side of it is there is muscle memory. So if you don't replace it, it will just grow back.
Yeah,
Because the default setting in the muscle memory will be to feel that feeling in the event. Whereas if you replace it with joy or laughter or love or whatever it is, you just create that new space. Um, yeah, there's a lot there now.
there's a lot. So I think we've given a lot of
There's a lot
information we
there.
shared,
And there'll be so many different opinions on that, which is the interesting
and this
thing.
is just a fraction of this that we've
Yeah,
shared just now. It's just a
because the
fraction
other
of the
side of it
whole.
is everybody's different. So everybody has, I mean, ultimately, if you want to change, you have to believe you can change and you have to expect you can change. And, you know, so
And you
that
have to
the
want
approach
it.
that works for you has got to be one that you can both believe and expect will work.
Yeah,
And that's where that rapport thing, which is another day's work altogether,
yeah.
comes into the equation.
But you see, because we are so different and everybody is different and perceives everything differently, that's exactly why we do this, so we can share as much as we know,
Mhm.
so we can give more and
And
more
even if
options
we
to
prompt
everyone.
a thought or a question in someone's head, or, you know, like I love examining a lot of the stuff that I do just to see if it's still valid
Yeah,
and to take something new and just apply it um, into an existing thing that I do. It's an additional part of it, or maybe it's a change. But someone once told me once you change one part, change it all.
yeah.
It's a new,
So
it's a
the
new,
question remains: what comes first? Thoughts? A thought comes first, or maybe thoughts or feeling? We would love to hear the audience's opinion.
yeah, because I don't think we can reach the answer immediately.
Comments. Let us know through an email or WhatsApp us.
Yeah, I mean, logically
Anyhow,
thoughts, but yeah,
yeah, but
no,
it's
it
still
doesn't
it's
feel like
it,
it.
it's still I would love to hear other people's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the other
Um,
side of it is we don't understand. I don't know if there's enough science behind it to prove the emotional side of, how it works, what it does. So if that doesn't exist, then we'd be looking at it from a fairly narrow frame. And when we finally get more information in time, we might realize, oh, we didn't actually, we were
yeah,
looking at it the wrong way.
yeah, and that's why I'm always open to everything.
Absolutely.
I don't close the
Absolutely.
door on anything because you just never know.
Absolutely. You just absolutely never know. Yeah, yeah. That was a interesting conversation.
It
It's got
was
me
again.
thinking, oh, this
I
guy's
think we
really lost.
rambled through the whole
I
thing.
think we ramble through emotions or through, thoughts and feelings. We've fun emotions, but sure, they're all connected anyway. Yeah, we've rambled through thoughts and feelings. Um, and of course, we will continue to ramble over the next few weeks and months. Um, yeah, right. So you figure out what's next.
Well, we are going to bring this to a close.
Yeah, fair enough.
Maybe
See,
not
listen to
making
the
too
bot.
long one. Just saying goodbye. Thank you again for watching us and listening to us, and hope you enjoy or enjoyed when you have listened to this. And just all the best to everyone. And please feel free to get in touch. Give us feedback, ask
Yeah, we'll put the
questions.
links below all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah,
Have,
thank you to everybody.
have an amazing
Wherever,
day, wherever you
wherever
are.
you are, whatever you're doing, have an amazing day.
Bye.
Bye.